Welcome to 8 out of 10 Cats, a show about opinion polls, surveys and statistics. Did you know, for example, 31% of men say they have a bucket list of things to do before they die. Number 1, find out where that smoke's coming from. 12% of British people have a friend with benefits. I've got a friend with benefits. She's on benefits. Did you know, for example, 14% of women say they can always tell when they're being lied to, and that's because all women are intelligent, perceptive, intuitive, and have you lost weight? The perfect slice of toast is 14 millimetres thick and weighs 0.44 grams per square inch, and that's according to a scientist who's apparently not aware there's still no cure for cancer. And only 3% of British women are naturally blonde. And that's a survey I conducted myself on the escalators at King's Cross. Did you know, for example, 25% of men think their eyes are their best feature? Let me think. Buns, guns, pecs, nads, little Jimmy Johnson, eyes. Sixth best. The world's oldest goldfish was 42. He put his long life down to regular early morning swims. And the average life expectancy in the UK is 80 years. Does not include Scotland. Terms and conditions apply. Did you know, for example, 29% of women under 30 say they want the perfect body? Well, here it is, ladies. Come and get it. 79% of people say they feel guilty putting recyclables in the bin. I get round it by placing my recyclables in a paper bag and throwing that in a hedge. And the average woman walks 7,000 miles in her lifetime whilst hoovering. And that statistic is brought to you by the year 1953. Did you know, for example, male sparrows chirp insults at each other when trying to attract a mate? Mainly, "You looking at my bird?" 68% of teenagers say they've changed their eating habits as the result of celebrity chefs. They say celebrity chefs, they mean Ronald McDonald and Colonel Sanders. And 4% of the British population say they might be bisexual. Well, you either are or you aren't. You can't have it both ways. Did you know, for example, pensioners can save £3 a day by not putting on their heating, which over the rest of their lifetime could save them a whopping £9. 66% of men are superstitious. I have a few superstitions. I'm scared of cats, and I hate the numbers 8 and 10. But fortunately, it doesn't really affect my life. And 8% of people have had their wallet stolen in the last 5 years. When someone stole my wallet, I was devastated. I'd had that condom since I was 14. Did you know, for example, 80% of all pictures on the internet are of naked women? Who knew? Men knew. 7% of Britons have got in trouble telling lies at work. In my experience, they get particularly upset when they find out you're not actually a doctor and that isn't actually a thermometer. And apparently the human heart creates enough pressure to squirt blood 30 foot. Isn't the type of thing you should write in a Valentine's card. Did you know, for example, 20% of people say doing nothing is their perfect weekend? We've all got our perfect weekend. I'd love to lie in bed all day on a Saturday, preferably Molly or Frankie. 1 in 3 iPad owners use it on the toilet. Of course, they're fully backed up, so plenty of time to use their iPad. And 26% of British couples enjoy role play. My girlfriend loves role play. Her favourite is when she plays the role of a middle-aged woman with a headache. Did you know, for example, 33% of British men say they like their smartphone as much as they like sex? For me, they're similar, about 5 inches long, and they've seen more than their fair share of Angry Birds. Meerkats are able to recognise each other by voice alone. How do they manage it? Well, it's complicated. And 43% of people say they've made love in a car. I know I have. I'll tell you what, if my car could talk, I'd be David Hasselhoff. Did you know, for example, 7% of people don't wear underwear? Sadly, though, it's not the 7% of people you hoped. 1 in 4 British people have never been to Wales or Scotland, and those people are known as employers. Did you know, for example, Each day, the UK produces enough rubbish to fill the Albert Hall 12 times over. Some of the rubbish that's managed to fill the Albert Hall in the past includes Simply Red, The Lighthouse Family and James Blunt. Instead of exercising, 7% of women wear body-shaping underwear like Spanx. So instead of having a body shaped like a pear, they have a body shaped like two pears in a sock. And 20% of Brits who viewed a house in the last year felt the same thrill as when meeting a new lover. I know what they mean. The last time I went house hunting, I came away with a semi. Did you know, for example, 8% of people smoke after sex? I always smoke after sex. That's friction for you. Bees collect 20 kilograms of pollen a year. I wonder what they're going to do with all those nectar points. And 25% of men say they can tell if a woman is faking an orgasm. My girlfriend doesn't fake it. Last week, she told me that she had the most mind-blowing orgasm of her life. God, I wish I'd been there. Did you know, for example, 25% of couples say they experiment in the bedroom? We do. Last week, we put the chest of drawers next to the window and the cupboard over by the shoe rack. I like to keep it fresh. 35% of single women worry they've missed the boat by holding out for Mr. Perfect. Don't worry, ladies, you can have Mr. Perfect if that's what you call one of your many cats. Did you know, for example, by 2030, 26 million Brits will be obese? Did you know if they all jumped up and down at the same time, they might lose a little bit of bloody weight? And 70% of men don't get enough fibre in their diet. Tough shit. Did you know, for example, 16% of women say they lie about their age from time to time, and those times are between the ages of 28 and 53. 40% of men would rather be single than bald. So finally, some good news for Justin Lee Collins. And 23% of people think they're more productive when they work from home. I know I am, but that's because I'm a self-employed erection checker. Did you know, for example, 9 out of 10 children visit McDonald's once a month? What's that thing that all the kids get in McDonald's? Oh, yeah, fat. 68% of men start conversations with strangers while queuing for the toilet. I wish people would just mind their P's and queue. And 27% of people keep a weapon by the bed to protect themselves against intruders. I don't have a weapon. Instead, I sleep in stockings and suspenders. Then if I'm burgled, I just throw back the covers and say, "What kept you?" Did you know, for example, the average mum has 1 hour a day to themselves? That's the thing with mums, selfish. 25% of lap dancers have university degrees. Yes, most of them... Carol there, just getting the last joke. Or remembering something that happened earlier in her life, who knows? 25% of lap dancers have university degrees. Yes, most of them have a tutu, and a French maid's outfit, and a police uniform. And 20% of Brits have travelled abroad with their pet, which rises to 98% of Geordies. Come on, pet, we're away on holidays. Did you know, for example, 32% of Britons aged between 25 and 39 live at home with their parents? I guess that can be awkward sometimes. For instance, if you're a grown-up who's currently watching this with your parents, why don't you all just take a moment to imagine each other having sex? See? Awkward. Only 1% of Brits don't own a TV. You know what I call people like that? Anything I like, they're not going to see this. And 15% of men have never touched a vacuum cleaner. I've never touched a vacuum cleaner. In fact, I've literally no idea how it got up there. Did you know, for example, over 1.6 million Britons still live at home with their parents, and we call those people children. It takes giraffes up to an hour to have sex, but most of that is necking. And 65% of people think Britain is a great place to live. And that's a survey of people hanging onto the undercarriage of the Eurostar. Did you know, for example, 1/3 of people flush the toilet while still sat on it, which I believe is known as a Manchester bidet. It takes the average person 7 minutes to fall asleep, although that can drop to under a minute if you're going out with John Richardson. Which you're not. No one is. Well, you go out with him then. And 25% of women have difficulty experiencing orgasms. They could try having a threesome with me and their more attractive sister. Might help, might not. I'm just saying, let's give it a go. Did you know, for example, 25% of people can write a text without looking at their phone, which is great because it means you can really concentrate on your driving. 48% of Brits think social networks can help new relationships. It's so true. My life has been such a social whirlwind since I joined Grindr. I've hardly been able to sit down. Did you know, for example, 1 in 8 adults in this country own a onesie? That's great, although I think there's a time and a place for a onesie. The place, your living room. The time, when you're 6. 79% of people enjoy experimenting with their meals, particularly the staff at Findus. And cat owners are 30% less likely to have a heart attack, mainly because their heart's already been broken. Did you know, for example, 1 in 5 women have been offended by a partner calling them curvy? On behalf of men everywhere, I'd just like to say, sorry, fatty. 79% of pet owners sleep with their pets. But be careful, the last time I did, when I woke up, my duvet was soaking wet and my goldfish was dead. Did you know, for example, 1 in 20 couples say they sleep in separate rooms to strengthen their relationship? I guess they also have sex with other people to prove how much they love each other. 10% of people never talk about food at work, and that's because they're too fat to work, and besides, they don't want to talk with their mouth full. And 25% of men never use deodorant, but unfortunately, they do use public transport. Did you know, for example, 30% of people would consider moving abroad after a holiday? I read about 2 girls who recently went on holiday to Peru, and they liked it so much they're staying for 6 to 8 years. And 23% of Brits have never visited France, which means they've never experienced the thrill of sitting in a cafe on the Champs-Élysées and being put off their croissant by the sight of a woman's hairy armpits and the smell of dog shit. Did you know, for example, 10% of British people let their pet sleep in their bed? There's nothing more relaxing than waking up in the night to feel the weight of your dog on your chest, to feel his fur, hear his gentle panting, and sense his eyes staring at you in the darkness. Until you realise, hang on a minute, I haven't got a dog. 54% of teenagers never go to the cinema. Really? Where do they make their phone calls? And 25% of Brits rate themselves 10 out of 10 in the bedroom. I'd give myself 9.9 because I fell over on the dismount. Did you know, for example, 80% of obese people say they've got no idea how much they should be eating? Here's a clue, less than that. 30% of people say their favourite meal hasn't changed since childhood. My favourite meal's still the same, sucking on boobies. Right, Mum? And 18% of the population has sleepwalked. My girlfriend's a terrible sleepwalker. A few weeks ago, she sleepwalked out of the house, met up with her ex-boyfriend, they sleep-shagged, and now she sleep-left me. When she wakes up, she's going to be so embarrassed. Did you know, for example, students have to apply for an average of 24 jobs before they find a position? Things are tough out there. I met a guy recently who told me he had a first with honours, an MA and a PhD. I said, that's great, but I asked you for a burger without pickle. 72% of people find spending time with animals relaxing. I like having dogs around, but my girlfriend objects to all the licking of balls and sniffing of bums. She says it upsets the dogs. And 40% of men worry about getting fat. There's a simple test for men. Look down at your stomach. If it's flat, you've got nothing to worry about. If it's sticking out a bit, you might need to go on a diet. And if you can't see your stomach because your boobs are getting in the way, you've got a problem. Did you know, for example, 47% of people think their partner isn't interested in hearing about their day? Correct. 75% of Americans do a big weekly food shop every day. And only 29% of women reach orgasm every time they have sex. I've got a tip for those women, or if they like, I could put the whole thing in. Did you know, for example, 20% of Brits always reread an email before sending it? It's a good idea. Last week, I nearly sent an email saying, I is very interested in your penis enlargement system. I is. Cringe. 10% of Brits ignore medical symptoms, which is fine. Don't worry about those shooting pains in your chest. That's just your body's way of telling you you need another steak bake. And 48% of women believe stress makes them unattractive. What you've done there, ladies, is confuse the word stress with jeggings. Did you know, for example, women spend an average of 49 hours planning how they'll look on Christmas Day? What, overheated, drunk and crying? Over Christmas, 90% of British families put up a Christmas tree and 10% put down a dog. And 30% of office workers admit to seeing a colleague engaged in a romantic activity at a Christmas party. That is, if you consider photocopying your boobs a romantic activity. Which I do, so keep sending them in. Did you know, for example, 40% of people regularly reward their pets with treats? Who's going to the vet for a lovely long sleep? Who's going to the vet for a lovely long sleep? 44% of Brits think that we should have a space programme. But Britain does have a space programme. Doctor Who. And 27% of men play games on their mobile whilst in bed with their partner. I'm guessing Angry Birds, especially when she wants to play Snake. Did you know, for example, Norwich has the politest drivers in the UK? Well, it's difficult to be rude when virtually everyone you meet is a close relative. The oldest paperboy in Britain is Bernard Davies from Brighton. He's 90 years old. Sorry, we just had an update. The oldest paperboy in Britain is Gavin Henderson from Sunderland. He's 12. And 51% of women do not groom or style their pubic hair. 51%, that means statistically, either your mum or your nan is rocking a Brazilian. Did you know, for example, according to a survey, 1 in 3 men live at home? That's nonsense. Everyone lives at home. 1 in 4 Americans have appeared on TV. I'm assuming widescreen. Did you know, for example, 84% of people would use personal contacts to help their child get a job? I hate nepotism. In fact, I'm the chairman of the Anti-Nepotism League, an organisation set up in the 80s by my father. The word dog appears just 14 times in the Bible, but loads more than that if you read it backwards. And a survey's revealed Sunday is the loneliest day for pensioners. If you're a pensioner, don't worry, someone will be popping round on Monday to cut your heating off. Did you know, for example, 35% of Americans think British accents are attractive? Well, jolly nice of you to say so, fatty. 19% of people who bought Katie Price's latest book, Love, Lipstick and Lies, haven't read it yet. Fine, we haven't read it, she didn't write it, everyone's happy. And 86% of Brits can't name 5 Cs around the world. It's easy. President Putin, he's a massive C. David Cameron, he's a right C. Whoever's running Iran at the moment, total C. Kim Jong-un, absolute C. And Piers Morgan, what a C. Did you know, for example, 60% of mums like to get dolled up to do the school run? And in Russia, that figure's even higher, as each dolled-up mum contains another smaller mum. 47% of Brits have used a public library in the last 12 months. I think libraries provide an essential service for people on the high street who need to take a shit. And a third of women choose their own engagement ring because they don't trust their partner's taste. Well, he chose you. Did you know, for example, 10% of homeowners have a hot tub? I'm sorry to disappoint anyone watching in Middlesbrough, but an abandoned chest freezer in the front garden full of rainwater does not count. According to a survey, over their lifetime, women spend £28,000 at the hairdressers. I don't know all the details, those are just the highlights. And 75% of women would rather date a man with love handles than a six-pack. Well, I've got love handles. Well, one love handle. It's about yay long and it sticks out the front. Did you know, for example, according to experts, people on diets lose 2 friends for every stone they lose. And those 2 friends are Colonel Sanders and Mr. Kipling. The average Brit will spend £11,000 on dates before finding the one. So viewers at home, men and women alike, just turn round now and have a quick look at your partner. Hard to believe, isn't it? You spent 11 grand on that. And people in Sheffield have the most missing teeth in Britain, and that's because in Sheffield, the tooth fairy is their main source of income. Did you know, for example, 40% of Americans have trouble swallowing pills? But if you make that pill bigger and out of beef, slap some cheese on it and pop it in a bun, then problem solved. 33% of people believe robots will one day replace soldiers. Absurd. Who's dipping a robot in a boiled egg? And 58% of people have difficulty finding a builder they trust, and that's because it's difficult to learn Polish. Did you know, for example, 83% of people think banks are the most important shops on the high street, and that's a survey of people that have momentarily forgotten they've just opened a Nando's on the high street. 55% of people believe in ghosts. Ooh, believes in ghosts these days. And 50% of people who win the lottery return to work afterwards to tell their boss to fuck off. Did you know, for example, 3.5 million Londoners use the Underground every day? My gran's been using the Underground every day for years. We buried her in 1994. 43% of men over 36 say they don't have any close male friends. So, mission accomplished, eh, ladies? And 33% of Brits have mistakenly called or texted the wrong person. I accidentally called my mum the other day while having sex. It was so embarrassing. I said, "I'm sorry, Mum, I'll call back. I didn't realise you were having sex." Did you know, for example, 67% of British couples don't actually have sex on their wedding night, which is just one of the reasons why, for so many British women, it's the happiest day of their lives. 47% of Brits have the same hairstyle they've had their whole adult life. I've had the same haircut since I was a kid. I looked up at one of the photos on the wall and I said, I want that one. And then I left the Lego shop and went to the hairdressers. And a third of women apply their makeup on the way to work, which is why they turn up looking like Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. Did you know, for example, 73% of women believe men should always pay for a first date? I took a girl on a date, and at the end of the night, she said, I want to go Dutch and shag my mate Lars. 36% of people in their 70s say they live life with a permanent smile on their face. They're not happy, it's just their false teeth are too big. And 19% of men worry about their moobs, but moobs are nothing to be ashamed of, just as long as they're not so big that when you look down, you can't see your mangina. Did you know, for example, 2/3 of shoppers admit being influenced by Christmas TV ads? I know I am. I watched that Sainsbury's ad, and now all I want for Christmas is all-out war with Germany. Last year, Britain had its wettest Christmas since records began, and that's why, this year, Nana's not allowed on the sofa. And 36% of children don't know whose birthday is being celebrated at Christmas. With all the festivities, people often forget the true meaning of Christmas. Eating a dry turkey in silence after a massive fight. Did you know, for example, 17% of adults don't class sexting as cheating? I love sexting. Nothing turns me on more than reading the phrase, "Who dis?" 47% of people think boy racers are the worst type of drivers, and that's a survey of people who have never seen your mum park in a disabled bay and then do one of her funny walks into Sainsbury's. And 80% of people say they always visit cultural attractions when on holiday, although that drops to just 20% when you explain that watching someone shoot ping-pong balls out of their foof is not technically a cultural attraction. Did you know, for example, 51% of people say they'll take their next holiday alone? My girlfriend will. She doesn't know yet, but she will. 1 in 6 British grandparents plan to spend all their savings before they die. So, kill them now. And 90% of people are happy in their own company. Wankers. Did you know, for example, 7% of drivers have gone to court over a speeding incident? It happened to me. I tried to explain, yes, I was speeding at one point, but to be fair, hitting those pensioners slowed me right down. 5% of people have worn the same pair of jeans for the last 10 years, and we call those people dads. And 43% of British women don't get enough sleep. Well, ladies, trust me, if you go to bed with me, you will. Did you know, for example, 15% of people say carbon monoxide detectors are too expensive? Yeah, I love my kids, but not 12 quid's worth. 1 in 3 horses in the UK are lame. So you might think horses are cool, but actually a third of them, pretty lame. And 40% of people in Middlesbrough say they wouldn't buy a property without a front garden, of course, because they need somewhere to keep their fridge. Did you know, for example, the Bible actually gives no date for Jesus' birthday? So Mary and Joseph probably just said it was December 25th, so they didn't have to buy him 2 sets of presents. The average Brit takes 15 hours to finish their Christmas shopping, which begs the question, just how far do they live from the all-night garage? And 52% of British people eat twice their recommended calorie intake every Christmas day. And that fact also works if you remove the word Christmas. Did you know, for example, 15% of Britain's native species are at risk of extinction? I love seeing our wonderful animals, foxes, badgers and hedgehogs in their natural habitat, jumping up and down on a trampoline in someone's back garden. 77% of men get down on one knee when they propose. It's a meaningless tradition, but some people still like marriage. And 85% of women wash their hands after going to the toilet. Why are you washing your hands, ladies? Surely what you should be washing is your bum and your fanny. And the punchline to that joke is your bum and your fanny. Did you know, for example, 7% of British people have sexted the wrong person? I know I have. And if you're watching, sorry, Mum. The UK is the 5th fattest nation in Europe. So who's fatter than us? Well, I believe it's Latvia, Sardinia, Slovenia and the Orkney Islands. Did you know, for example, 8% of people have seen their neighbours naked? I know I have. It was so annoying. I had to wait hours. British workers lose 29 million days a year to hay fever. Of course, hay fever doesn't affect all British workers, just those in certain fields. And pigs can run at a speed of 11 miles per hour. Unfortunately for pigs, what can run at 12 miles per hour is David Cameron. Did you know, for example, 40% of Britons have trouble getting to sleep? Not my girlfriend. She can fall asleep at the drop of a trouser. 20% of British OAPs are unhappy. We don't know about the other 80% because no one's visited in a while. And according to scientists, ironing burns 157 calories an hour. But that can't be true. Otherwise, why is your mum so fat? Did you know, for example, 30% of British men avoid changing their hairstyle? I haven't avoided changing my hairstyle, but until Lego make a different one, I'm stuck with this. British shoppers spend almost £55 billion a year on the high street, and that's 55 billion and 5p if they forget to bring their own carrier bag. And the most popular time for people to have sex is 10:24 on a Saturday night. It certainly is for my girlfriend, because that's when I'm on stage. Did you know, for example, 70% of British men say they wear their watch as a status symbol? I know I do, and my status is tiny cock o'clock. 40% of young adults don't know how to change a nappy. It's easy. You just have to pull the legs through, fold the flaps over, secure them, and at no point look your nana in the eyes. And 12% of British women would prefer their man to be good at DIY rather than sex. I like to combine the two. Drill hole A against the wall until flush, then screw until nuts tighten. Did you know, for example, 22% of British people that have found something unwanted in their food chose not to complain. I found something disgusting in a box of chicken nuggets once. 6 chicken nuggets. 30% of British men would ditch their partner for a friend. I admit, I would. I'd say to my girl, sorry, babe, but you know with me it's bros before hoes, and tonight, baby girl, it's chess club. I'll be back by 8:30. Did you know, for example, in 2016, identity theft rose by 57% in the UK. I guarantee I'll never fall victim to identity theft, or my name's not Susan McManus. 27% of Welsh people have fallen out with their partner over something they did in a dream. It must be difficult for Welsh people. You start off by counting sheep, and then one thing leads to another. And the number of vegans in the UK has risen by 300% in the past 10 years. I had no idea there were so many vegans. After all, it's not like they go on about it all the fucking time. Did you know, for example, Candy Crush is the most downloaded game on smartphones, and that's because Tinder is not technically a game. Although I am a player. In the past 2 years, 25% of UK adults have bought plus-size clothing. If you don't know what plus-size clothing is, it comes in XL, XXL and fucking hell. And 25% of Brits employ a cleaner. I once had sex with my cleaner. I bloody love that Henry the Hoover. Did you know, for example, 10% of British people can't swim, although if there's a free bar in the pool at their all-inclusive hotel in Magaluf, they will give it a go. 30% of British people walk to work, and that 30% is their legs. And the sun is over 300,000 times larger than Earth. To put that into perspective, if you imagine the Earth is the size of you, then the sun would be the size of your mum. Did you know, for example, 43% of women want a partner that surprises them from time to time? You're back early, darling. This is Karen. Surprise! 45% of adults try to unplug from technology at least once a week. My nan unplugged from technology recently. Well, technically, we unplugged her. And the average person will spend 35 days of their life brushing their teeth. But spare a thought for Rob Beckett. Did you know, for example, a fifth of people kiss their pet on the lips? Which begs the question, where's everyone else kissing their pet? 20% of Brits under 35 believe in the Illuminati. That's silly. We're not real. Sorry, they're not real. just for me and my friends. 1 in 8 young Brits are either bloggers or vloggers, or in other words, living off mum and dad. And only 26% of men say they'd try a male contraceptive pill. Well, if you want to avoid unplanned pregnancies, here's a tip. Do what I do and just stick to the granny fanny. Did you know, for example, 95% of women say they'd opt for true love over great sex? Sorry, ladies, but on behalf of 100% of men, I'm here to inform you, you're going to have to settle for neither. 78% of singles say they've been ghosted. My nan got ghosted. That's living on your own and a cold winter for you. More than 20% of all British people hate the sound of their own voice, or to put it another way, are from Birmingham. If you're watching this in Birmingham, you can write and complain, but don't call us. Oh. 3/4 of millennials can't defrost a freezer. They get offended by the snowflake symbol and give up. And 12% of Brits have had sex in the sea. Me and my girlfriend regularly have sex in the sea. The A is just for birthdays. Did you know, for example, 3 in 10 pet owners sign their animal's name in cards? It's fun in a birthday card, less appropriate in a card which reads, "Sorry for your loss, lots of love, Mr. Mittens." Snails have approximately 25,000 teeth, so a snail might be Rob's real dad. Did you know, for example, humans share 50% of our genes with bananas? Well, that certainly explains the bend in my penis. And why it turned green that one time. There are over 125,000 stray cats in Istanbul. Finally, a bit of good news for the shish kebab industry. 17% of Brits have had sex on a dining table. Turn over, it's time for pudding. And the average Londoner has 2 best friends, 4 close pals and 5 work buddies, whilst the average Geordie has 2 friends with benefits, 20 friends on benefits, and no work buddies. If you're watching this in Newcastle, well, you can't hear me because it's through a shop window. Did you know, for example, 1 in 3 Brits have got BO? So have a look at the person on your left and have a look at the person on your right, and if there's no one there because you stink, it's you. Only 5% of people wash their hands correctly after using the toilet. I do, although I find it quite hard to work up a good lather with those urinal cakes. And 1 in 3 Brits don't know why we celebrate Easter. Well, it's to celebrate Jesus, hatching from a chocolate egg laid by the Easter Bunny. And also double bank holiday bonanza. Thanks, Jesus. Did Did you know, for example, the Queen has spent 72% of her life on the throne? I'm guessing that'll be IBS. 57% of Brits think children should be taught about orgasms at school. They did it at my school, but weirdly, during PE. And 1 in 5 women talk to their mum at least once a day. And not just women. I talk to your mum at least 3 times a day. Although £3 a minute is expensive. Did you know, for example, the Queen travels with an entourage of 34 people, including Prince Philip, and 33 people trying to keep Prince Philip alive. 85% of bikini bottoms never get wet. Fair enough. Who gets turned on by fat guys in Speedos? And 60% of the world's largest animals are in danger of going extinct. That's why there's no time to waste. If you want to shoot an elephant, do it now. Did you know, for example, 1% of British Christians believe God is female? I think she is. I mean, let's face it, only a woman would create a fine piece of ass like this. Not running the tap when brushing your teeth could save up to 12 litres of water a day. Or if you're Rob Beckett, 1 million litres of water a day. And 2/3 of Brits would want doctors to pull the plug if they were on life support. I know my nana wanted to be kept alive, but I'm afraid she got outvoted. Sorry, Nan. Sorry, Nan. Did you know 8% of millennials are offended by Christmas decorations? Snowflakes. But also baubles and tinsel. 1/3 of Brits think Lapland is a fictional place. It's not. I've been, and as strip clubs go, it's actually all right. And 1 in 4 Brits don't think snogging is cheating if it's under the mistletoe. But if that mistletoe is part of a vajazzle, it's a different story. Did you know, for example, the average amount of money left by the Tooth Fairy is 88 pence? And that's because she was made bankrupt by Rob Beckett. Yeah, we're going in early. 1 in 5 Brits never carry cash. I'm 100% contactless, and by that I mean lonely. They're quite easy to manipulate, aren't they? Hoovering typically burns around 50 calories, which begs the question, why is your mum so fat? Is it because your house is filthy? Just like your mum? You know, for example, 2/3 of human communication is by gesture, not speech. Sounds about right. People are always waving at me. All right, Jimmy? More than half of Brits enjoy meat substitutes, or as they're more commonly known, dildos. And 63% of British women say size does matter. So if you're a man with a small penis, little tip, and little shaft, I'd imagine. Did you know, for example, 17% of Brits think it's acceptable to go outside in your pyjamas? I popped out in my pyjamas the other day. My girlfriend said, pop yourself back in, Jimmy. 1 in 20 Brits say they openly pick their nose. I saw Catherine pick her nose out of a catalogue. 1 in 3 men say they never dance. They say you can tell how someone has sex from the way they dance. That's why I only ever dance alone in my room whilst wearing one of my dead mum's dresses. Did you know, for example, nearly 1/3 of people don't read instruction manuals, and the results can be catastrophic. I set my penis pump to blow instead of suck, and now I've got an innie. 57% of Brits think World War III is likely in the next 10 years. But will I be able to enjoy World War III if I haven't seen the first 2? And 20% of Brits are happy to eat things that are well past their use-by date, which I think means Grandad still gives Nana a treat from time to time. Did you know, for example, 15% of British men own a man bag? My uncle carries a man bag everywhere. Always has, ever since his prostate operation went wrong. 25% of Brits say they'd like to be in the royal family. Well, that's good timing, because there's currently 2 vacancies. Probably a 3rd before the end of the year. You've got options on who that punchline is about. Did you know, for example, 2/3 of Brits sleep naked, and that's a survey of my neighbours done by me through their window. The average Brit spends 4 days a year looking for a parking space. It can be a nightmare. The amount of times I've ended up just landing it on the roof. And 28% of people have cheated at a pub quiz. I once cheated at a pub quiz. My girlfriend was livid when she found me in the disabled toilets with a barmaid. Did you know, for example, 66% of the human body is made up of water, unless that human body is your mum's, in which case it's biscuits. 3% of the UK think they have superpowers. I have a superpower. I can levitate. Well, not completely, just my tinkle. Only when I'm looking at other tinkles. And toilets use up to 35% of your home's total water consumption. That's why, to save water, I go to the toilet in the shower. Although it can be tricky pushing it through the plug hole. Did you know 6% of Brits buy advent calendars containing alcoholic drinks? But I don't need a calendar to remind me to drink at Christmas. I just look at my family. 16% of grandmothers say Christmas is the only time of year they get drunk and let their hair down. So it's not just Santa that comes but once a year, right, Grandad? And 15% of Brits give their bin men a festive tip. Not me. I put the whole thing in.